What's up, guys? Welcome back. Okay, so today's video is to answer a viewer question. So Georgie, I think this is what you were asking. So what the question was, I think it was mainly a two-part question. We're going to address it in two parts. So one of the questions was, and this was during the Heroes Festival, why can't we feed the Tinas into rebirth, the extra Tinas into rebirth, into the Heroes Festival rebirth for a Nat4, because we do have two types of rebirths. So we have the festival rebirths, hero and clan, which generally you can feed your Nat4s in to get another Nat4. And then we also have the regular rebirth, which is generally for 3 stars, but of course you can feed higher star levels if you want, but that's generally not suggested. So, the question at the time was, why can't we feed these into rebirths? And more than likely, I think that's probably because, first of all, I think the Tinas had a super rare drop. Also, I've seen quite a few, I've seen a lot more variants than I did back in the Sierra event or back in the day of MSL when, it was really hard to get to capture the Nat4s. They've since dropped the rates because people complain of the exotic Nat4 drops. But I think since they increased the rate of the Nat4 drops, but I think since they did that, they have instituted a little bit of a penalty because they are so common to get now. Super rares are really not hard. If you guys think about how often you probably see a Miho, if you're farming on the first or second continent, the amphibian is a little different because I don't know what's up with the amphibian sometimes, but he's supposed to have the same drop rate, but I know some people have trouble with meeting one of the quests, but that's a different story, right, guys? So I think it's the super rare drop, and the fact, so they are a lot more available. We're able to, they might have increased the rate of variants because I've seen a lot of the variants, or maybe that's just a general increase in the super rare drops. And so I guess they don't feel like it's feasible to give us that many Nat4s to be able to feed into a rebirth for whatever reason. So I think that would answer that question. The other thing that I think is important to talk about in this type of video is, what do you do with the excess Tinas that you actually have? So since we can't cycle them normally through Nat4 rebirth, which is really what the Nat4 rebirth I think was probably made for, to help us clear our boxes and to use some of the Nat4s we might who we don't really want to build anymore of. So what do we do with these excess Tinas? I can think of maybe 3 things that we can do with them. One of them I think is preferred over the other 2 methods. So first of all, of course, you can end up making extra Evo 3 versions of the Tinas if you want. I do think at a minimum you should have one light one Evo 3, a dark one Evo 3. You can always think about doing a second light one and get her to Evo 3 if you want. But moving on to a third light is probably not preferred, especially since we have the Draka, who actually has a better passive skill and a better active skill than the light Tina, so he kind of overshadows her. So I think you don't really absolutely need to have a full team of Tinas, especially if you have a fire Draka. Also, you'd have to think of some very special use for her, maybe in PvP or something. That is an option to make an extra Evo 3 version. The second option would be the Nat3 rebirth. So if you want to feed it into the Wraith or whatever's coming up, after the Wraith event, the Wraith rebirth, you can always throw the excess Tinas into the Nat3 rebirth. That's not I don't think that's generally preferred, especially since if you have enough excess Tinas, you've probably been in story mode quite a bit, and unless you have the new option to continue through Nat3s popping up, then you've probably caught quite a few of them to just feed generally into naturally into rebirth, and so you probably don't really need to feed them through that. But it is an option if you do, I guess, need extra monsters to feed for a Wraith, to maybe try your luck at trying to get a light dark. So I don't prefer that method, but it is an option. The third method is the one I do prefer and is what I'm doing. And that is to release. So releasing monsters is kind of like it's like a tiered system. So the higher the natural star level of a monster that you release, generally the better the prizes are. But that's because you're generally sacrificing a pretty good monster in order to try to basically gamble on getting something. You know, I think gold and astral gems tend to be not common, but they're part of the pot. And so if you release a Nat4, generally, you know, you have a higher chance of getting better things from that release. So I think that's the only option for us right now, unless they unlock her for the next Nat4 rebirth, which we don't know if they will do that. I highly doubt they will. They've never really done that before. If they've made a decision to lock out a Nat4 out of a rebirth, they usually don't change their mind. But who knows? They might. But yeah, guys, so that is my preferred method. If you have any other uses for the excess Tinas, definitely let me know down in the comments. And it'll also help other people to have ideas of what they might want to do with their excess Tinas. But that is my preferred way, is to just release them and get the prize. Now, if you're not sure if you really want to make an extra Tina for it to fill out however many you have right now, one thing I would suggest you do, as opposed to keeping them in your box, is basically kind of banking the soul stones, as opposed to trying to bank the actual monsters. So if you bank them in soul stones, generally that saves you space. So, you know, for other monsters that you catch normally or you summon, if you have them in soul stones, they're always there for you to summon whenever you want or need them. So I would definitely do that, as opposed to trying to keep the ones that you capture in your box. The only extra one you might want to keep in your box is maybe one that has the gem setup that you want. So if you want triple square, or if you want 2 squares and a triangle, whatever you want, as long as it has a square, definitely, guys. But definitely outside of keeping maybe 1 extra Tina in your box, in addition to the other 2 minimum, or 3, however many you've made, you know, I would definitely try and bank the Tinas in stones, as opposed to banking them in my box. So yeah, guys, Georgie, I hope that answered your question. Guys, if you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not, and I will see you next time.